So liquids vary so much because there's just so many variations of it. I wanted to focus on water pouring out of some vessel, water as it has already fallen and like accumulates, and water from like water melt well, ice melting and forming a water droplet. So as you've seen, which I hope you have, if you've been outside ever, which I hope you have, or looked out a window, I mean, probably sometime in your life you have seen rain, right? Um, but it's different. Like, you probably have seen rain in a lot of different forms. Like, you may see rain kind of like. No, that's not the best way to portray it. You may have seen rain kind of like. It kind of looks like a bunch of dashes, or you may have seen rain like very thin and elongated and kind of just like, coming down like single water droplets. Like, if you've been outside and you've experienced it, sometimes rain could hit you soft or it could hit you really hard, like to the point of it hurting, even with it out like hailing. Um, I'm guessing that all has to do with the environment and clouds, and I wish I knew more about that. An I'm not sure a climatologist, but rain tends to have just so many different properties to it. I mean, I said in this video how to draw liquids, but I think every liquid is different. I mean, that's not just water. You have other things, like you may have like syrup, which I think, if you had a bottle of syrup, it would pour very slowly, um, or like molasses, because it's very viscous and it's kind of like resisting flow. So it's kind of like goops and kind of like puddles. And if you have maple syrup in your house, you could take it out of, try to pour it on a plate or something and watch how it flows, or you could even like take a picture of it. With rain, I feel like it has to do with the environment and probably whatever is held in the cloud before it falls. So you may have really hard drops and really soft drops. And let's talk about a vessel, right? So if I'm going to make this larger real quick. When you have something like that, oops. When you have something like that, the pour spout isn't like straight. So because the pour spout isn't straight, you tend to get like um, this jaggedy thing. The other thing is the person who's pouring it is probably shaking a bit, so there's some uneven flow to it. So that also contributes to how you're viewing the liquid. I'm going to try to draw the container a little bit. It's not going to be perfect, but it's kind of like that. And it's kind of cut off there, but the important thing is that you can kind of see that certain areas, like it's like it kind of looks like a bit of like a choppy flow before it hits the glass water, and then like obviously you really can't tell because it's all just pouring into the same thing. Oops. So the other thing that's important is the vessel that the water is coming out of, because like I think teapots are a good example of this. I want to say that, I don't know, they grade them based on how clean the pour is. So like if the flow of a teapot, let's draw a teapot. Well, actually, you know what? Let me just try to finish that. No, it's kind of going in water, so you really can't tell. Okay, so let's let's draw a teapot from imagination. A teapot is kind of like that. Always use reference. Do not do what I'm doing. I think it's better to do teapot like that. I'm trying to think of a teapot pouring. I can't think of a teapot pouring, but well, let's just assume this is a teapot or something. I don't know. It's a teapot, right? So if the flow of the teapot was like basically so straight that you couldn't tell, you couldn't, like, it just seemed like a single perfect stream, I think that it would be graded really high. But if you had a teapot that was like more like jagged like that, I'm guessing that has to do with maybe the interior of it isn't sanded to give it that perfect flow, so it would probably have like a lower grading of a teapot. But the point I'm trying to say is many things affect the flow of water. You have to find the reference that you want to use for it. I'd even suggest finding videos of water. I have another application called Drawsome 3, and basically it lets you choose a video, and you can put it in it, and then you can kind of like pause it a lot easier. You can kind of like flip through frames a lot easier doing it. And if you wanted to find exaggerations, it has all these features to skip frames, or you can even automate it and play it as a slideshow. There'll be a link in the description for that. But basically with that, you could observe water flow, and if you wanted to like learn how to animate it, if you had an animation software, you could go through it with that. So yeah, what we know, it has to do with how it's pouring, the various things that could affect it. But liquids come, well, I think, it's not like they come in many forms. You have your gas form. If you have like condensation, I would say, I don't have any images of condensation with me, but when I think of condensation, it's kind of like a fog effect. So it's kind of like, I really haven't studied condensation. It's like gas form. So I would look into that. I would look at images to reference that. But I had another photo I wanted to reference, which was an icicle that's melting, right? So when an icicle melts, it doesn't just, unless it's really warm, the whole thing's not going to fall off. But instead, what you would really have here is there is a point on this icicle, okay? So I'm just going to show it. Like normally, when you have an icicle, when you see it, when it's like fresh snow and not melting, it's like sharp. But as the weather gets warmer, it will melt it, and I don't know the science behind a melting icicle besides the caveman explanation that I have. But obviously the icicle is attached to something. It probably wraps around the form that it's on. I should have done that better. But it wraps around a branch, for example. It's there, frozen midair, and there's a point to it. And when it's melting, you have droplets that flow down it. And really, like, you have to draw the water three-dimensionally, even though you're not seeing it. Like in the image here, you really can't tell so much, but it's clearly there. It has a three-dimensional quality, even though it's hard to see it. It's like a lot more like a raindrop as it melts, and it's kind of like following along the contours of the icicle itself, so it gives it like a really cool teardrop shape to it. In my opinion, I like that. Really, it's more kind of like that, and you really can't see it for the most part because it's wrapping around the form. But if you look at the bottom here I drew a point, but if you look at the image here, it's like actually like a big drop that's accumulating. So essentially what's happening here is water is accumulating until it gets large enough to the point which it's too heavy and it falls off the ice. So you have that really soft, round teardrop shape for it, for when it's melting. You may see that when it rains as well, but like I said, it all depends. So look at reference if you can get it. Now, the last image I wanted to cover is how water droplets may accumulate as like a shape. I mean, it all depends. So a leaf, for example, or this leaf, if you ever see like morning dew, condensation, think of it like that. Or maybe that's not the right way to think of it. I usually think of it as water molecules like coming together and forming on stuff. So it's kind of like that. But if you look at these, they're all like round forms. Like you're not seeing any zigzag shape. It's not like a sharp shape. Oh, one other shape I wanted to think about. If you ever think of like an ocean that's having a storm, you'll see like wave crests. And like if it's a soft storm, or no, if it's like no storm at all and it's just maybe windy, you'll have those. But if you have a lot of wind, you'll have like really sharp crests. So, it's like water can take on all of these gestural forms. So the dew on the plants, you have like these round shapes. So if these water droplets kind of coming together, and if you would ever look at like examples of it, sometimes if these water droplets get close enough, they'll merge together into a larger shape. And if you want to look at something really cool, Google bugs stuck in water droplets. So bugs sometimes will wander into these and may get stuck. Hopefully they don't die, but sometimes they will drown. More often than not, they can make it out. But yeah, you pretty much have like these circle shapes. I mean, there's a three-dimensional quality to them. They're more like spheres rather than circles or ellipses. So always think of them like that. They also cause like a magnification effect of looking through what they're on top of, so you can kind of see like the veins of the leaf more, or the material that makes up the leaf, whatever you would call that. So yeah, I think the important thing to know is that water can take so many different forms, and there's just absolutely so many different things that you can do with water, and ways to show like a heavy flow or a soft flow or water pressure or a clean pour or a not so clean pour. But yeah, there's so much to do with it. Like you can probably spend your entire life just trying to draw liquids. I mean, there are people who try to or artists who try to portray just water sitting in a clear glass, and it's just so complicated to do. I haven't done it yet. I probably should someday, but that's like another mystery. But yeah, don't even get me started on like, if you look at a lot of these droplets in this image here, you'll see that there's like a light source on it. So that's another hard thing, because there's like a central light source. You can think of it kind of like a bubble. But yeah, there's so much to it. So I would say find the reference of the liquid that you want to draw and observe it closely. Do many studies. Try to find similar examples of it, and practice until you get to the point in which you're comfortable drawing that given liquid. But just know you can never draw every single liquid in existence. I mean, there's just too many, and I just covered water. I didn't cover syrup. I didn't cover. Could you consider lava a liquid? I don't know. Something like that. But yeah, so like I said, experiment. Always get reference images and look at them as you draw and learn. And yeah, those are the major things that I would recommend when you're trying to draw liquids. I have an application called Thumbtastic. It's free. I'll put a link in the description. If you're a digital artist, I highly recommend it, because you could use it to reference images easier on a digital tablet like I'm doing here. But yeah, thank you for listening. If you like this video, please like it. If you like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. But yeah, thank you for listening. Bye.